It was a Tuesday, just like any other Tuesday. I was sitting in my office staring at my computer screen. My inbox was overflowing, each email more mundane than the last. Then I saw it, an email with the subject line "Opportunity in Norway." Norway? I had always been fascinated by Norway. The fjords, the mountains, the northern lights, it seemed like a place out of a fairy tale. It was from a production company. They were working on a documentary about Scandinavian culture and they needed a videographer. The company was offering a generous salary, travel expenses, and the chance to live in Norway for 6 months. This was my chance. Moving to Norway had always been a distant dream, something I'd think about while stuck in traffic or on a boring conference call. I had a comfortable life in your current country. A good job, a nice apartment, and all the conveniences of a big city. Yet something about that email made me question everything. Why was I so content with just dreaming? Why not take a chance and see if I could turn this dream into a reality? Could I actually pull this off? The decision to move to Norway wasn't an easy one. It meant leaving my comfort zone, my friends and my family. It meant starting over in a new country with a new language and a new way of life. But something in my gut told me to go for it. I had always been a bit of an adventurer, always up for a challenge. And this felt like the biggest challenge of my life. After days of agonizing over the decision, I finally made up my mind. I sat down at my computer, heart pounding, and typed out a response to the email. "I'm interested," I wrote, "tell me more." Hitting send felt like jumping off a cliff. The email about Norway was a jolt, but it also made me think, why was I even considering this? I had a good life, great friends, a comfortable routine. But was it enough? The daily grind was wearing me down, the constant noise, the traffic, the feeling of being stuck. I craved something different, something more. Norway represented that more. It was a chance to escape the ordinary, to challenge myself. It wasn't just about Norway. It was about escaping the feeling of being trapped. Trapped by expectations, trapped by routine, trapped by my own comfort zone. I was tired of the rat race, tired of the constant pressure to keep up with the Joneses, tired of feeling like I was living someone else's dream. Norway was a chance to hit the reset button, to redefine what was important to me, to create a life on my own terms, a life filled with adventure, purpose, and meaning. Norway had always held a certain allure. The breathtaking landscapes I'd seen in pictures, the stories I'd heard about the culture, it all felt magnetic. The country represented a different pace of life, one where people prioritized work-life balance, where nature was revered, where community mattered. I was drawn to that, to the idea of living in a place where I could breathe fresh air, hike in stunning mountains, and experience the magic of the northern lights. Landing in Norway was like stepping into a postcard. The air was crisp and clean, the sky was a brilliant blue, and the mountains, oh the mountains, they were even more majestic in person. I spent my first few days just wandering around Oslo, soaking it all in. The city was charming, with its colorful buildings, cobblestone streets, and friendly locals. Everyone seemed so happy and relaxed. It was a welcome change from the hustle and bustle of home. I found a cozy little apartment in a quiet neighborhood. It was nothing fancy, but it had everything I needed. I quickly settled into a routine of exploring the city during the day and working on the documentary in the evenings. The honeymoon phase didn't last forever, of course. The reality of being a foreigner in a new country soon set in. The biggest challenge? The language barrier. Sure, I had taken a few Norwegian lessons before moving, but nothing could have prepared me for the real deal. Ordering food, asking for directions, even simple conversations felt like insurmountable obstacles. I relied heavily on hand gestures and Google Translate in those early days. There were times when I felt incredibly isolated and alone. I missed my friends and family back home. There were moments when I questioned my decision to move. But I'm not a quitter. I was determined to make the most of this experience. I doubled down on my language learning, attending classes, and practicing with anyone who would indulge me. Slowly but surely, I started to pick things up. I even had a few conversations where I didn't need to resort to hand gestures. My colleagues on the documentary were incredibly welcoming and helpful. They introduced me to their friends and families, and I began to feel a sense of community that I hadn't expected. I was beginning to feel like I could actually build a life here. One of the biggest adjustments I had to make was to the Norwegian lifestyle. Things moved at a slower pace here. There was a strong emphasis on work-life balance, which I initially struggled with, but I soon learned to embrace the Norwegian way of life. I started taking time for myself, hiking in the mountains, skiing in the winter, and just enjoying the peace and quiet of nature. I discovered a love for cross-country skiing, something I never would have tried back home. I was starting to feel more at home in this new country than I ever thought possible. One of the first things that struck me about Norwegians was their reserved nature. Coming from a culture where people are generally more outgoing, I initially mistook their quietness for coldness. But I soon learned that it was simply their way. Norwegians valued their personal space. They weren't ones for loud conversations or public displays of emotion. Small talk wasn't their thing. They preferred to get to know you slowly, over time. Once you earned their trust though, Norwegians were incredibly warm and welcoming. They genuinely cared about others and their community. Navigating social situations in Norway was a learning curve. There were unspoken rules and customs I was completely oblivious to at first, like taking your shoes off when entering someone's home, or waiting to be invited to sit down before plopping yourself on the couch. Then there was the concept of janteloven, an unwritten social code that discouraged standing out from the crowd. Boasting was frowned upon. Humility was valued. It created a level playing field where everyone was treated with respect, regardless of their background or achievements. It was a refreshing change from the competitiveness and status anxiety I was used to. Norwegians' deep reverence for nature was something I instantly connected with. Growing up in your current country, I had taken the outdoors for granted, but here, nature was an integral part of life. People spent their weekends hiking, skiing, or simply enjoying the fresh air. They had a deep respect for the environment and took pride in preserving its beauty. I quickly embraced the Norwegian concept of friluftsliv, which translates to open-air life. I spent my weekends exploring the forests and mountains surrounding Oslo. I went kayaking in the fjords. Being in nature was no longer a leisure activity, it was a way of life. Adapting to Norwegian culture wasn't always easy. There were times when I felt lost, frustrated, and out of place, but I learned to embrace the challenges as opportunities for growth. I learned to slow down and appreciate the simple things. I learned to be more present and mindful. I learned the importance of community and connection. I learned to see the world through a different lens. Most importantly, I learned that it's okay to be uncomfortable. That's where the real growth happens. I'd seen pictures, of course, everyone has. Those majestic fjords cutting through towering mountains. Water so still it looks like glass. It's the kind of beauty you can't comprehend from a screen. Taking a boat tour through the Fjord was like entering another world. The air was crisp and clean, carrying the scent of pine and salt water. Sheer cliffs rose on either side, waterfalls cascading down like silver ribbons. Tiny villages clung to the edges, seemingly untouched by time. It was humbling. To be surrounded by such grandeur, to feel the power of nature so intensely, it put everything into perspective. Norwegians have this word hygge. It's one of those untranslatable terms that encapsulates a whole feeling. Cozy, content, connected. It's about finding joy in the simple things. It's the warmth of candlelight on a dark winter night, the crackle of a fire in a cozy cabin, the shared laughter of friends over a pot of coffee. It's about slowing down, being present, and appreciating the moment. I experienced hygge in countless ways during my time in Norway. Sharing meals with friends in their homes, the air thick with conversation and laughter. Cozying up in a cafe with a good book, watching the snow fall outside. Hygge wasn't something you chased, it was something you created. Life in Norway moved at a different pace. Slower, more deliberate. It took some getting used to, coming from a culture obsessed with speed and efficiency. But gradually, I learned to embrace it. to savor the moments instead of rushing through them, to prioritize experiences over possessions, to value quality time over quantity. I started taking walks without a destination in mind, lingering over coffee with friends, hours melting away in conversation. Moving to Norway wasn't just about changing my location, it was about changing my perspective. It challenged my assumptions, pushed me out of my comfort zone, and forced me to confront my own biases. It taught me the value of slowing down, appreciating the simple things, and connecting with nature. It showed me the importance of community, the beauty of different cultures, and the power of embracing the unknown. Most importantly, it reminded me that happiness isn't a destination. It's a way of traveling. And that, I realized, was a lesson worth learning no matter where life took me next. Looking back, moving to Norway feels like the most impulsive, terrifying, and rewarding decision I've ever made. It wasn't always easy. There were moments of doubt, loneliness, and utter confusion, times when I questioned everything. But those challenges, those moments of discomfort, they were the price of admission. The cost of truly experiencing a new culture, of pushing myself beyond my limits, of discovering who I was outside of my comfort zone. They were the bumps in the road that led to the most incredible views. I went to Norway chasing a dream, a change of scenery, a chance to escape the ordinary. And what I found was so much more than that. Moving to a new country isn't about ticking off a bucket list item. It's about embracing the unknown. It's about saying yes to adventure, even when it scares the hell out of you. It's about pushing your boundaries, challenging your assumptions, and opening yourself up to new experiences. It's about finding the courage to be vulnerable, to make mistakes, to learn from them, and to come out the other side stronger and wiser. It's about discovering the resilience you never knew you had, the inner Viking, if you will. Because here's the thing, the world is a big, beautiful, messy place, and the only way to truly experience it is to step outside of your comfort zone, to embrace the unknown, and to allow yourself to be changed by it. That's where the real magic happens. So, to anyone considering a similar leap of faith, here's my advice. Do it. Don't overthink it. Don't wait for the perfect moment, because there will never be a perfect moment. There will always be reasons to stay, reasons to play it safe, reasons to stay within the comfortable confines of what you know. But if you feel that pull, that yearning for something more, for something different, don't ignore it. Take the chance. Book the flight. Pack your bags. You might be surprised by what you find. And if things get tough, if you feel lost or alone, remember this: you're not alone. There's a whole community of people out there who have taken similar leaps of faith, who have faced their own challenges, and who have come out the other side stronger and more resilient. Reach out to them. Share your story. You might just inspire each other to keep exploring, keep growing, and keep embracing the adventure that is life. I never planned on staying in Norway forever, but those years I spent there, they changed me. They shifted my perspective, broadened my horizons, and showed me that home isn't just a place, it's a feeling you can find anywhere, with anyone, as long as you're open to it. I eventually returned to your current country, but I brought a piece of Norway back with me. The love of nature, the appreciation for simplicity, the importance of community, these values are now woven into the fabric of who I am. And every now and then, when the city noise gets too loud, when the pace of life feels too fast, I close my eyes, and I'm back in that cozy cabin, fire crackling in the hearth, snow falling softly outside, the scent of pine needles in the air. A reminder that sometimes, the greatest adventures are the ones that lead us back to ourselves.